Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and I've got a long-time friend and colleague in the studio. Haven't seen this gentleman in a while. Javier Guerrero is the president and CEO of Coastal Roots Farm. I knew him when he was the executive director, CEO, chief cook and bottle washer for the San Diego Children's Discovery Museum up in Escondido. Javier, how you doing, man? You don't age. What's going on? Is that the food you've been eating and growing and all that?
Yeah, it's that nutrient-dense produce will keep you live and vibrant.
Beautiful. Then we need to send some over to my way. Joined by your colleague, Kesha Dorsey. She's Director of Philanthropy, Impact Strategy, and Communication for Coastal Roots Farm. How you doing, Kesha?
Really well. Thanks for having us.
How long you been with the organization?
7 of its 10 years. The both of us actually were celebrating 10-year anniversary, and we've seen so much of it grow. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
No pun intended, I'm sure, on that. We're joined by my co-host, Sophia Lee. She is a absolute phenomenal student filmmaker, and now been co-hosting with the Spotlight Show and just doing a phenomenal job. A few more of these episodes, and I'll be her co-host. That's how that'll work. Sophia, how you doing? How you enjoying this?
Yeah, I'm doing great. This is super cool.
Very good. So I know you have a question for Javier and Kesha.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the mission of Coastal Roots Farm.
So Coastal Roots Farm's official mission is cultivating healthy, connected communities by integrating sustainable agriculture, food justice, and ancient Jewish wisdom. And the way that we describe our work typically is in 4 impact areas. Regenerative agriculture, which refers to the way our approach to farming, the way that we farm our land. Secondly, where the food is going, equitable food access, the folks that we're feeding and who are relying on our food, really addressing issues of food insecurity here in San Diego County. The third one, environmental education. I like to say from pre-K to gray, but we have folks of all ages, all backgrounds, all abilities coming and experiencing the farm and fostering a love of nature and really learning to be environmental stewards. And lastly, Jewish values, Jewish life, which is the way that we were founded on these really interesting Jewish agricultural values that we believe have beautiful modern day relevance today.
Yes, talk about some of those values. I'm fascinated about that. What are those values?
Yeah, so an example of one is Adam ve'adama. Mm-hmm. The literal translation, Adam in Hebrew means man or human. Yeah. Adama means land or soil. So we put those words together. They sound linguistically the same because they come from the same root. Yeah. So our case, our position on that is that humans and the land are interconnected and interdependent. So that's one of the ways that we sort of explain why people should come and experience the farm and have a connection to the land and their community, because we rely on it and it relies on us. And it's a beautiful cycle.
It is a beautiful cycle. And we've known this since men and women were walking upright, and we still torture our land. And this is what you folks you don't do on this. Kesha, what got you into this field? I mean, we always fascinated by this?
The land piece, I would say, is really new to me. I grew up Jewish, but I didn't have the Jewish land connection that is so inherent. Yeah. It just wasn't the framing that I was taught. Yeah. And I was just thinking about that this morning, in fact, that I feel cheated by that, actually, in a way. It's the most beautiful way, I think, to connect for me with my identity is the way that the Jewish calendar works on a lunar cycle, very similar to agriculture. Right. And by design, our holidays are happening in certain seasons. So that's a piece personally, but I've worked always in nonprofit, have public health background, and just really view this, the way that our tagline, Nourishing Community, feels very public healthy in the way that we view that we don't just nourish our bodies with food, but with connection, with sense of purpose, with people who share values with us, that sort of thing. And that's what's happening at Coastal Roots Farm.
Yeah, and all those are great. And Javier, no surprise that you're in this world over here, having known you from San Diego Children's Discovery Museum, always full of life and full of ideas and all that business. Talk about what you love most about Coastal Roots Farm.
Well, I think the real kind of through line there from the Children's Museum to the farm was growing the environmental education programs and programming. Just before we came on board, hired a wonderful farmer, Adam McCurdy, who oversees all of our production. and distribution. And one of the great opportunities on that land is to welcome youth, children, families, intergenerational families onto the farm for programming. So in those 7 years, we went from almost no programming per se with youth to now in this last year, over 12,000 youth coming from throughout San Diego County for school programming pre-K through 12th grade. And that's coming from South Bay to Fallbrook to Inland, really robust environmental education programs. We also have after school on the farm.
And half those students come on scholarships.
Yes, and half the students coming on scholarships. Thank you. It's very fulfilling and rewarding, I think, for our team to see how that's grown and to see how we've been able to serve so many based on community philanthropy. And I must also say, we also have a very robust farm camp program, of which there are still spots available this summer. Check out our website. But yeah, we welcome around 800 youth during the summer for our farm camps, and that's also a CIT program. And it's awesome to get the kids out there. On the back of their shirt, it says farmer in training.
I think that's great. Well, it makes sense, fit, right? So that double entendre, I guess, there. I know Sophia has a question for you. Before we get to that, where is the farm?
Farm's located in Encinitas, North County, San Diego, right off between Encinitas Boulevard and Leucadia off Saxony near the Ecke YMCA. And it's on what was formerly Ecke Ranch. It was the last 67.5 acres of what was originally 950 acres of Ecke Ranch. And we're fortunate enough to be a product of the Leach Tag Foundation that bought the property in 2012.
Right, exactly. Sophia?
Mm-hmm. So for me, when I imagine the farm and going there on a field trip, I just sort of think of pumpkin patches. I think for a lot of kids who grow up in the city, maybe they don't know what it would be like going to the farm. Can you describe your programs in more detail and what you would say to kids interested?
Yeah, I think that's really common, actually, that we are in a community here in San Diego or California where there's so much farmland, and most of us are sourcing our food from grocery stores. That could be, the food might be traveling from all kinds of other places, right? Despite the fact that we might drive by 3 farms on the way to work or school. So a lot of the kids, they come from communities like that. They've never been on a farm before. They've never seen food growing, and they're surprised to find that a carrot is growing in the ground, right, and not coming out of a bag, let's say. So that's a really important thing.
They don't come out of bags?
Well, they do if you buy them from certain places, and the benefit of that is they've been washed and prepped, but nothing like a farm fresh carrot.
I understand. Yeah.
I would also say the parents coming out too. You think the kids are going to be the ones that are really wowed by the farm, but you have all these parents and chaperones and whatnot, and teachers even coming out to the farm. I must say they're just as excited as the kids.
Mm-hmm. But the experience ranges, right? It's totally dependent on the age coming out, but there's always an element of harvesting or tasting and experiencing the food in some kind of way. Our education team would argue that any food exposure, it has an element of nutrition, has an element of, connection with their environment, again, fostering love of nature. They're hunting for, pollinators. They're visiting the chickens and doing like a health check on the chickens. They might be harvesting and doing a food prep activity. So it really can range. But really, one of those things, like especially with farm camp and our after school and the farm program, there's also just a lot of time to be out in nature and play with loose parts and like really balance, one of our taglines, balancing screen time with green time, like just the health benefits of being creative in nature and with community, right? So it looks a lot of different ways.
We're chatting with Kesha Dorsey. She's the Director of Philanthropy, Impact Strategy, and Communication for Coastal Roots Farm, joined by her colleague, Javier Guerrero. She is the President and CEO of the farm. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast. We are in our 19th year. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 60 years of doing great things in our community, from food insecurity to financial literacy to art and everything in between, joined by my very cool co-host, Sophia Lee. She is a student filmmaker. When we come back from break, I want to talk more about the student experience. Want to chat about something that you folks know all too well. We're at epic proportions with childhood obesity. That's an understatement of the world. Thanks to you folks, that hopefully will, subside. And then I know we want to ask what our listeners can do to support your efforts. Can they volunteer? Can they donate? Can they harvest? Can they do all these things when we return with our friends from Coastal Roots Farm right after this short message?
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Joined by our friends from Coastal Roots Farm, Javier Guerrero. He is the president and CEO, joined by his colleague, Kesha Dorsey, Director of Philanthropy, Impact Strategy, and Communication. I am joined by my co-host, Sophia Lee. She is a student filmmaker. Sophia.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned before that you had programs for equitable access to food and providing food for people with food insecurity. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that program works and then how our viewers can help support it?
Yeah, so there's two main ways that we're getting the food out in the community. First, it's important to note that, 7 years ago when we came, we were growing around 25,000 pounds of food. Today, we're growing around 80,000 pounds of food, feeding around 45,000 people. We get food out to the community really in two main ways. One is an on-site pay-what-you-can farm stand. So that means any of our listeners can come to the farm Thursday or Sunday, Thursday 12 to 3 or Sunday 10 to 3, and they can shop the farm stand and discount up to $30 and get the best nutrient-dense produce harvested that morning. And it's what's in season, right? So eating seasonally. And I think it's just so important to be supporting small farms. The other way that our food gets to the community, and again, this is largely with philanthropic community support. So the part that people aren't paying at the farm stand is being funded through private philanthropy, is through multiple partnerships with other nonprofit organizations serving food, or I should say food insecure community groups. And that's, again, 100% donated. So we're talking about military, active duty military veterans and tribal indigenous communities, over 25% going to seniors, and so on.
It's interesting because we have a lot of senior groups that come on the show and talk about as we're aging older, or aging, I should say, more and more. Of course, there's some good things about it, and there's some challenging things about it. And one of them is the increase in Alzheimer's, because that's what happens when you live into your 90s and 100s and all that, but it doesn't mean you can't live healthy. The largest group unfortunately, of new homeless are seniors and all that business. Mm. But when we have these groups on, what you are hitting is spot on. It is so important. And when you talk to our friends at the food bank and Feeding San Diego, it's what you're talking about. It is the healthy food that is so important. Talk about that, Kesha.
Yeah, well, we know that 1 in 4 San Diegans is considered food insecure. And also, Javier mentioned, we're growing 80,000 pounds of food, which is incredibly meaningful. Feeding 45,000 people, incredibly meaningful and finite. The number of people that are food insecure in this county exceed far beyond 45,000 people. And so we know that we're part of a larger system of, say, emergency food providers or service providers that are doing really important work. And so we are growing food. We're like the supply chain, from the grower to the supply, and people are sourcing directly from us. And that is a unique, kind of value add, right, that we're providing the most nutrient-dense produce you can possibly secure. Right. And all of us rely on the larger system of farmers markets and food banks and all the other pieces. So that's, I think, an important call out. But the other thing is that the populations that are receiving food from us, they're engaging in the farm in other ways. So it's like really I don't know if wraparound is exactly the right term, but when you think of, for example, we're in partnership with Jewish Family Service, we're reaching Holocaust survivors and we're going directly to their home. One of our distribution team members just shared with me that she went to a survivor's home recently. She helped cut carrots. She created zucchini fritters. That's not exactly in the JD, but it was about the connection and making sure like her, she had mobility needs and she, of course, was experiencing feelings of isolation. So I think for Coastal Roots Farm, it's not just about the food. It was never just about the food, but the food itself is an incredibly meaningful piece.
Well, and it ties into one of those things you're talking about, the Jewish wisdom, so to speak. We all know as we're getting older, isolation is getting very, very prominent with that group, any group for that matter, but especially with the seniors. So just heaven forbid we're actually communicating with people. What a shock that is. And not abusing the land, working with the land. Do you guys work closely with the Encinitas Union School District and their farm lab?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the way that we're neighbors. We're part of a larger consortium of nonprofits doing work to serve young families and provide food and that sort of thing. They do source their own produce from their own farm lab, so we're not servicing those schools, though we do have Encinitas schools coming to the farm for field trips.
Yeah, and that program's focused on elementary age school.
It is.
So not the middle school and high school. And again, the youth coming to the farm are literally coming from throughout the county.
Right. Do they get... you mentioned scholarships for them to get there. Is busing an issue? We all know if you're anywhere near education, busing, it doesn't cost $100 for a bus anymore these days, right? I think it might be tenfold from that.
Yeah, our scholarship dollars are to serve exactly that purpose, to reimburse for bus as needed and also to cover the program fee itself. So we have schools, and this is the case, same with our Pay What You Can farm stand. We could, apply that same term, Pay What You Can, that the schools are coming, some of them are paying the full fare, some of them are paying a little bit, some of them are paying nothing at all. So for example, the entirety of the Escondido Union School District, they have their pre-K, kindergarten, and fourth graders all coming out to the farm. And that school doesn't have budget for a program like this. So we are covering everything from bus to fee and everything in between.
Yeah, one of our good friends is Superintendent Ibarra. So he's a frequent guest on the show.
Yeah, he's great.
He's unbelievable for 76 different, they all 43 of them are for that matter. As we, saw Javier, your buddy, was just on here, Cipriana, the Vista School Board member. Sophia, how much farming have you done in your life? Because I know how much I've done. It's called zero. Have you done a lot of farming at all?
I've really tried to grow plants. I mean, even the succulents just die. But so how meaningful do you think this experience is, getting hands-on learning with the environment and then also connecting not only back to our food sources, but to the people around us?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so vital, and I think we're also experimenting and trying this out in different ways. So just to call out a program that we've been working with in the last couple of years where it's been about not just providing the food and providing the educational programs at the farm, but we've actually extended some of our outreach with philanthropic support to support actually tribal communities here in San Diego and support their food growing capacity. So it's kind of the adage of, give the person a fish or teach them how to fish. And I think for every youth, every adult, everybody who comes to experience the farm, whether they're learning technical skills or they're getting inspired, as well as what we're going out and doing to support other communities of need in multiple ways in that kind of wraparound way. And so we're continuing to explore all the ways that we can do that.
You folks, not to patronize you, but I mean, you literally are hitting all these key areas for not just youth, for everybody that's walking in this world. Collaboration, connectivity, health, nutrients, connecting, empathy. Well, by the way, the dodo bird. Sometime we got to bring it back in here, which ties into it. And what an experience! How many of the folks that are going through the program or the youth that are doing this never been on a farm before? What percentage is that?
A huge percentage.
Right.
Actually, would be surprised to hear that a lot of our students are coming. And like I said, it's not that they've never tasted, say, whatever that may be. Although there are foods that they would say, what the heck is that? What is a kohlrabi? Right? And so they come and there is that kind of wow factor.
Right.
But beyond that, like putting their hands in the soil and being a part of the experience of feeding themselves has a layer. But I really liked your question about like what are the actual kind of impacts. And there is the growing food. But I think, again, that's like what's so special special about Coastal Roots Farm is that it's never just the one thing. I was thinking about in advance of our 10-year anniversary celebration, which is coming up next Sunday, May 18th, just thinking about the team and really feeling reflective and reminiscent of everything that has happened the last, in my case, 7 years, but 10 years for the farm. And just thinking that like these farmers are some of the best people I know. Like imagine being that your day to day is like watching a crop grow and being so connected and so grounded to like the miracle of, daily growth every single day. So we do hear from people who are coming to the farm. Sure, they might be coming to source food, but to meet their farmer and to feel connected in that way, people tell us that it's healing. People tell us that it's, it brings them back to how they grew up or whatever it may be. So again, it's like, I don't know, feels like this emerging kind of theme that it's not just about the one thing.
Yeah, and I would also say there's definitely a lot of young farmers out there, and San Diego has more small farms than any other county in the United States. And I think the farm's been a place where we've had people come through and go off to start their own farms or work on other projects. And so there's also kind of this workforce initiative through the farm. We do have an internship program. We do have a workforce development program. But then there's also just the people who come to work at the farm and they find that connection. And when you're working at the farm, whether you're a farmer or educator, our educators are also farmers. And people are connecting to the land in new ways. So going back to that value that Kesha was mentioning, Adamva Adama, the connection between us as humanity and the earth. But the other one, Drew, that you were just touching on was the value of Arevu, which is this mutual care. We have to care about each other. We have to learn how to care about each other.
Yeah, and and just think about it here. Again, I'm preaching in the congregation. Sophia knows us so well as a student filmmaker. I think she tries to get that across in her films as well. And if we don't start doing this, and it's never too late to start doing this, in this area. And so I applaud you for this. So what can our listeners do? I'll start with you on that, Kesha, and then go over to Javier. What can I do? What can we do?
There are an infinite number of ways to get involved with the farm. I mean, folks,
we got plenty of time.
Okay, amazing. Let's go. Number one, shop the farm stand, attend an event, come and be a part of the community. Absolutely support, donate, volunteer. There are even just donating alone. I mean, we engage the number of ways that a person can engage and contribute, whether they're donating personally, they're connected to a foundation, they work for a corporation that's philanthropic, they have donor advised funds, they can spread the word, right? So those are some of the ways. A couple of fun plugs that happen during this season is we're kicking off both our farm film and music series and our farm to table dinner series. There's one a month, each month starting in June and going through October. And so that's a really sweet way to engage. And they're different price points and they're different audiences. The farm film is $10 or $15 at the door. Farm to table dinner, $150, a portion of which is tax deductible. So a little something for everybody. And we really try and make all experiences accessible for folks of all walks of life.
Right.
And also, just to jump in real quick, and also sponsorship opportunities for those too. So if there's a company or a group that's interested in supporting, getting behind those particular programs and initiatives, that's all available as part of our corporate partnership program.
What's the website?
coastalrootsfarm.org.
So, I think Javier knows what I'm going to say here, because you're just meeting me and Kesha for the first time, to your detriment, I'll tell you that right now. Definitely want you guys back on, and want you to have on multiple times. And next time you're on, maybe you can bring in a family, a kid or whatever the case may be that has benefited from this. And this is how they've benefited from it. Obviously, just being on the farm would be great. So, have Sarah Wacker reach out to me. I want to get you back on. Think about who you want to do this. This is the type of program, I know I'm, again, preaching to the congregation, that we cannot talk about enough. We cannot amplify enough. That's going to benefit everybody from a health standpoint, whether it's mental health, whether it's physical health, and this is the connectivity about it. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been having a great conversation with our friends from Coastal Roots Farm, Javier Guerrero, the president and CEO, joined by his colleague, Kesha Dorsey, Director of Philanthropy, Impact Strategy, and Communication. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest running community podcast in our 19th year, brought to you by the unbelievable folks at Mission Fed Credit Union, 6 decades of doing great things in San Diego County. I'm just honored to be joined by my phenomenal co-host, Sophia Lee. She is a great student filmmaker. Her ears perked up when you mentioned about films. I know she'll be in touch with you and to our audience. I hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.